Okay, so this is Class 8 NCRT Chapter 1 Crop Production and Management. So, as usual, to start, I've made this wonderful PPT like we always do. So, just as I opened the textbook, I wondered why would a textbook like to have this crop and production, etc., as its first chapter. So, let's Google it and let's figure out something like agriculture in India. So, things that are popping up at us. Let's open this like this. Okay, so let's see the main things: history of agriculture in India, and then 50% of the Indian population is agriculture employed, which is quite great. And India ranks first in the world's highest crop India, and then followed by some other countries. So these are the things that we can see clearly. So what we can understand from this is that India India is literally the major production of crop and food in the world. So this is why agriculture is very important in India. So continuing, now the first definition in the chapter is a crop. So what is a crop? So when plants of the same type are grown and cultivated at one place on a large scale, it is called a crop. Like for example, you can see here, like it's not just one or two plants that you can grow in your kitchen garden. As you can see, there's a large farmland and a group of plants of the same type are grown. For example, wheat, paddy, pulses, etc. Now we have to know the different types of crops. Okay, so there are two types of crops, which are Kharif crops and Rabi crops. So Kharif crops are the crops which are sown in the rainy season. Most of us already know this as we have done it in the 7th and 6th classes also. But this time it's in more detail. In fact, there's a separate chapter on this. So examples of Kharif crops are paddy, maize, soyabean, groundnut, cotton, etc. Now moving on to the second type, which is Rabi crop. So now Rabi crops are the crops that are grown in the winter season. Yeah. So like the period is generally from October to March. So they begin planting first the Kharif crops, which they plant from June to September. Then in September they harvest. Then in October they sow the next seed of the Rabi crops. Then from October to March, next crop. Then they harvest. Then they wait a bit for the rainy season to come. And then again in the next year, in the June month, then they again sow the Kharif crops. So it's like a rotation of the crops. So now examples that we have for Rabi crops are wheat, gram, pea, mustard and linseed. Now of course these are very important to memorize, as these are sure to come in your exams. So now the basic practices of production are, first of all, cultivation of crops, which involves multiple activities like agricultural practices, and so these practices, when together combined, they are known as cultivation. So these activities are, there's an order of 7 activities, and this has to be memorized in the same order, because of course you can't like harvest and then sow the seeds. It's just going to be all chaos. So you have to memorize it in an order. So the first is preparation of soil. First you prepare the soil, then you sow the seeds. Of course, if you don't sow the seed, then you won't get any crop. Now adding manure. Of course, when you have sown the plant, then you need some nutrition to the crop. So you add manures and fertilizers. Then the crop needs water to survive. So we do irrigation. Then we don't need competition from plants that we don't need. So those are called weeds. We'll also discuss them later in this chapter. So we have to protect them from weeds also. And then finally the work pays off and we have to harvest the crop. Then you store it, and then the later process of selling, blah blah blah, begins. So moving on to the explanation definition of the first step over here, like you can see, which is preparation of soil. So the preparation of soil is the first step, like we already discussed. It is one of the most important tasks, is to turn the soil and loosen it. So there are multiple benefits of loosening and turning the soil. Some of them are, aeration, and water percolation rate is increased, aeration spaces are increased, and it helps the roots to penetrate deep without any effort. And then bugs can also enter and earthworms can grow, many such benefits. So this we have already discussed. And then the loosened soil also helps in the growth of microbes, like I already told, and these microbes are the friend of the farmers. And also to be mentioned that the marigold plant, it is in fact that the marigold flower is a very good friend of the farmer, because if they plant marigold flower, like not to compete with the main crop but somewhere else near the field, so what will happen, that all the bugs, all the pests in fact of the crop will get attracted and the crop will be saved. So marigold is a very good partner of the farmer. Now, preparation of soil involves a process called tilling. Now, the process of tilling is also known as loosening or turning of the soil. This is done using a plow. However, the tools that are used for tilling is like the plow it is a traditional tool which is known as a plow. So in old days people used a wooden plow, but nowadays people use an iron plow. Now, of course, we know why this is, because of course a wooden plow would get biodegrade over time and it would corrode due to all those rocks, and it was also weak. But now then this iron plow, it is strong, it won't easily break, and it won't easily biodegrade. So these are the benefits of using an iron plow. Now, some modern tools and implements and practices for tilling as a hoe, which is used to remove weeds. We'll discuss further in the chapter that what are weeds. Just a second, yes. And then the second tool is a cultivator. Nowadays, plowing is done using a cultivator. As you can see, the cultivator is just a huge tool attached to that little green tractor over there. So cultivator is a machine. So as we know, using machines, what it does, it saves energy, it saves labor, it saves money, etc., etc. Now moving on to the second step of cultivation, which is sowing. Now sowing is, as we discussed, the most important part of growing a crop, because if you don't sow the seed, of course you can't get the crop. So the first method of sowing, the first practice, is selection of seeds. So you need to have good quality seeds, because if you have half good half bad, then the production of the crop will not be so good, because half seeds that you sow will be bad and they won't produce good crop, and only half will produce good crop. So if all the seeds are of good quality, then we'll get 100% crop yield. So this is why we have multiple implements for selection of good seed. Now we'll be going to discuss a traditional tool, as you can see. So this traditional tool is shaped like a funnel. The seeds are filled in the funnel, passed down through 2 or 3 pipes which are having sharp ends. So you can see it has a seed storage. Then the seeds get injected into the soil through sharp end pipes, and these ends also pierce through the soil, so they act as a plow too. Now this is quite similar, but of course it's a machine and a tractor driven thing. So this is known as a seed drill. It's a modern method for sowing seeds. So nowadays a seed drill is used for sowing seeds with the help of tractors, which are machineries. And now these tools are they have their own benefits, that they sow seeds at proper depths, proper distances, and it also ensures that the seeds get covered with soil so that birds can't pick them. Now the third step of cultivation is adding manure and fertilizers. So what are manures and fertilizers? Natural substance or artificial substances that are added to the soil to increase its fertility and add essential minerals needed by the crop are called manures and fertilizers respectively. So you see, natural are manures and artificial are fertilizer. Soil supplies mineral nutrients to the crop. These nutrients are essential for the growth of plants. In certain areas, the farmers grow the same crop in a field and the field is never left uncultivated. So, because of this continuous growing of the crops, this makes the soil poorer in certain nutrients. Therefore, farmers have to add manure to the field to replenish the soil with nutrients. And this process is called manuring, which is the process of adding manures or fertilizers. So now what are manures and fertilizers? So manure is an organic substance obtained from the decomposition of plant or animal waste. It can be prepared in the fields. It provides a lot of humus and it is not so rich in plant nutrients. However, a fertilizer is the exactly opposite. First of all, it is an inorganic salt and they are prepared in factories. It does not provide any humus. However, they are rich in many plant nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Example of fertilizers are urea, ammonium sulfate, superphosphate, potash, NPK, which is the full form of NPK is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Now don't ask me why they have that K for potassium, I don't know. So now we have man adding fertilizers, as you can see, to crops. This looks like wheat or something, and these have not even grown properly. So you can see how this man is carrying a little cylinder and he has a pipe and he is successfully giving the crop some fertilizers. So now the fourth process of cultivation is irrigation. Now what is irrigation? Irrigation is the supply to water at different intervals is called irrigation. And here it's worth mentioning that the irrigation is from sources other than rain. So it should be the supply of water to the crops at different intervals from sources other than rain is called irrigation. Sources of irrigation are wells, tube wells, pond, lakes, rivers, dam, canals, etc. And like every other step of cultivation, even irrigation has two methods, traditional and modern. Let's look at them simultaneously. So we have traditional methods of irrigation as the chain pump, which you can see includes a chain and then the water goes through a canal or whatever this is and gets into the crop. Then we have a moat where we have a little bit of a manual system involved. Here you have a well and you have a canal made and that person has to pull that bucket out of the well, then get the water in the moat. And then we have the Dikli, which is something very similar, and then the Rahat, which is also known as the liver system. As you can see, this cow is rotating it over here and that little wheel over there is also rotating, and it is ultimately pulling out water and giving it to the canal that further transfers it to the crop. So one thing which is common over here is that it requires lot of manual work either by animal or by man, and it also wastes a lot of time, which nowadays most people don't have. So to prevent wastage of time and human labor, we have modern methods of irrigation, which are two systems, drip system and sprinkler system. Let's look at them one by one. As you can see, sprinkler system is more likely to be used for uneven land. It has perpendicular pipes attached to the main pipeline. The perpendicular pipes possess a rotating nozzle. When the water is made to flow through the main pipeline with force using a pressure pump, then the water escapes out of the rotating nozzles and gets sprinkled on the crop, and then the crops are going to be like, hey, is it raining or what? They don't even understand the difference between that sprinkler system and the rain. So this is quite good. Now on the other hand, we have drip system, which is very good for water scarce areas where there is a lack of water, because almost like 0% water is wasted over here. So what happens is pipelines are really close to the main stem and root of the plant. Then when water is made to pass through the pipe at really low pressure, then drops fall out of the pipe, and drop by drop the water gets to the root of the plant and no water is wasted at all. So now the fifth method, or the fifth step of cultivation is protection from weeds. Now that everything is done, some weeds grow into the field. We'll just see what weeds are. So in a field, many other undesirable plants, you just note the word undesirable, means we don't need this plant, but they grow naturally along with the crop. These undesirable plants are called weeds. Why are these harmful? Because these weeds get all the main nutrients that we are giving to the crop, and it competes with the main crop. As a result, the main crop will not grow properly. However, the weed will, but we don't need the weed, so that's why we must kill them. So weeds can be controlled using chemicals called weedicides. Now, of course, when we see the word sides, of course we know that it's some kind of killing. Pesticides, weedicides, etc. So some examples of weedicides are Metachor, 2,4-D, etc. So the manual removal includes the physical removal. You take a hoe or a khurpi, as it is sickle, or the khurpi as it is known as in Hindi, and you cut them or uproot them using these tools, and then you can do weeding. However, in the modern method, you can also use a seed drill. So a seed drill serves as two functions. It sows the seeds as well as kills weeds. So as you can see, this layout is quite similar to how we saw fertilizers were sprayed. There's a tank on the back. As you can see, this fertilizer image also. Here also the man had a tank and a pipe, and in this image also he has a tank and a pipe. But what is the difference? That he is really well dressed, gloves and mask, because these weedicides are chemicals for killing, and these are also harmful to humans. And now comes the sixth step of cultivation, which is the harvesting. This is when all the hard work of months pays off, and the farmers get the main crop. Now harvesting is a very important task. It is a cutting of crop after it is mature. It can be done manually with the help of a sickle, etc. tools which are traditional, or a machine which is called the harvester. And like seed drill, which serve two purposes, we also have another machine known as combine, which is a harvester as well as a thresher. We'll discuss this later on. So harvesting can be done using a harvester or as well as a combine. So in the harvested crops, the grain are separated from the chaff by known as processes, with the help of processes which are winnowing and threshing. So as I already told you, that the combine also does the task of winnowing and threshing as well as harvesting. And now the seventh and the final step of cultivation, which is storage. Now farmers have to store grains after they have been harvested. So these are stored in huge containers, metallic bins, or gunny bags. So when you store them, they need to be very safely stored, and they have to be prevented from pests. And large scale storage, commercial storage is done in silos, and small scale storage is done using granaries. Now the last topic that needs to be covered is animal husbandry, which is similar to when animals are reared, like cow for their milk, chicken for their meat, etc. So when animals are reared and taken care on a large scale to get their animal properties or foods or the reproduction or any other thing. It's known as animal husbandry. Now, thank you for watching this video. This video is made by Apoorvspeaks AAR. If you like this video, please like, share, and share your love-filled comments. Also, subscribe and hit the bell icon before you go. It takes me so much time to make a single video, and I also have to edit it. It's so much hard work, but it will just take you a second to subscribe to my channel. So please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to smash that like and bell icon. Thank you and have a nice day.